Ale.
Good evening, Councilman Marshall.
All right, Anastasia, we ready to go?
Yeah.
Kenmore City Council is now in session. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember O'Kane.
Here.
Mayor Baker.
Here.
Councilmember File.
Here.
Councilmember Marshall.
Present.
Councilmember Kugler.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Herbig.
Here.
And last but not least, Councilmember Shrebnick.
I'm here.
All present.
All right. This is a special meeting, and I'd just like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional land of the first people of Kenmore, and honor it with the gratitude of the land itself and the Coast Salish peoples who thrive in this place, alive and strong. There's only 2 items on the agenda. We'll start with the first one, Planning Commission interviews and schedule. And Mrs. Bent, is she here with us?
She is. I'm promoting her right now.
Great.
I'm sorry, Mara. I was in the process of joining. I heard my name. What did you ask me?
No, we're just saying we're just getting on to the interviews, the Planning Commission,
Okay,
and wondering if there's any particular order, or I believe Anastasia's got the order.
There is a particular order that Anastasia has. So the other thing, I think there is a few minutes if you need to figure out the questions that you want to ask the candidates before the first.
That certainly is one of the things that we need to do. There are a series of questions, and I just need to find out where I have put them. Here they are, that we need to ask. And so I'm sure everybody has a list of questions, and there are 7 of them. And so we'll just rotate like we did last time. Who is in elected position number 1?
Me.
Okay, so let's start by our elected positions, and then we will change that the next time around. In other words, we will start with position number 2 for the first question. So, Councilmember O'Kane, if you would like to ask the first question, please.
Okay, and I'm just opening, is it in the, I don't have the.
It's an email from Debbie Bent on Tuesday.
Oh, here it is. I've got it. I've got it right here, I think. Just a second. Apologies.
Labeled potential, the one that's potential interview question?
Yes.
1123 from Debbie Bent.
Yep.
I have one from last Tuesday.
Yep.
Apologies.
Who's in position number 2? Okay.
Joe, maybe if Joe could go first. I'm sorry. I'm opening. Here, I've got it.
Okay.
I have the questions now.
Great.
Apologies for the delay. Okay. So let me I need to arrange my screens. Okay, I have the first question, which is, just lost it.
Are we going to promote our candidate also?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
So the first question is, please provide a 2 or 3 minute overview of why you believe you are a good candidate for the Planning Commission.
Yeah, that's the first question, but let's get, everybody got the questions in front of them? And Anastasia, do you want to promote the first person?
Our first interview starts precisely at 6:10.
Okay, so we're a little bit early. So then, are we clear on the order that we're going in? So we're starting with position 1, the first question, and then the second time around, we'll start with position 2, and so on. So after the interviews, Mrs. Bent, are you there still?
Yes, I'm here.
So when it comes to voting,
Mhm.
have you thought of the way that we're going to do this? Because we're going to interview 8 people.
Yes.
So we're going to vote on somebody potentially 4 times?
You need to select 4 candidates, yes,
Right.
to serve 3-year terms, correct.
So then what we will do is we will vote for the 8 candidates, and the one with the most votes will fill the first position. And then we can do the same thing for the second position, unless staff or somebody has a different way of doing it, which I'm open to.
I do not have a different way of doing it, so that's certainly one way of doing it.
I mean, when we did this in person, we would have at least, 4 or 5 years ago, we'd have a whiteboard set up and we'd each get X number of votes to vote for whoever we wanted to. And we could put them up that way and then just see who came out with the most votes. I'm not sure if there's a good way to do that though.
It's
Remotely.
kind of hard to do in the situation we're in now.
Yeah.
And it has to be done in open session, so.
Well, I mean, if somebody could share a screen when we get to the voting part and have all the names up, and we can
could.
assign, we go through each council member and we each give 4 votes,
Yeah, that
one
works.
to 4 different people, and then we see where that shakes things and we go from there. I mean,
Anastasia, is that doable?
Yes.
Councilmember File?
Thank you. Yes, Zoom does have a whiteboard feature, so that feature is available. Maybe if a staff member wants to keep it updated, it can be shared via screen share.
Councilmember O'Kane?
Do I recall correctly, last time we did have a moment for discussion before voting? Is that intended? Okay.
Mhm. All right, so Anastasia, you'll share your screen with the candidates up, and we'll go through each council member and figure out what their 4 votes are.
Sure.
All right, we still have, obviously, 3 minutes here before the first person. Is everybody happy with the questions? And let's try to read them word for word and not improvise on some of them and change it. So, because I want it to be fair, so all of the candidates have the same question.
One thing to let the council know is that the applicants got to pre-select their 15-minute interview slot. So if they are very late, we will have to take them at the end of all 7. Essentially, they'll have to wait because we'll have to take all the other applicants on time if they're late comers.
Yeah, I would think that if anybody's late, it's an indication about how much they want the office. So I would assume people would be on time, but I could be wrong.
Mayor Baker,
Yes,
could we just go through who is in each position? I just want to know the order in which we're going to read the questions. So I understand
so
Councilmember
you should
O'Kane
be position number 4.
no, I'm 4.
number 3.
You're
So-
number 3. Great, then you will get the 3rd question on this time around. Next time around, you'll get the 4th question. Yes, Councilmember Marshall's number 2.
I'm 6.
Yep.
And I have a thought about voting rather than going one council member at a time voting. I'm sorry for it. It might be not enough time. I'll bring it up later.
All right, you want to get the first person in? Madam
Well, I thought we were gonna do a different process for voting as well, but anyway, okay.
I think we're gonna wait for our first applicant, if you wouldn't mind giving them
I
just.
thought it was he's coming, was due at 6:10.
Yes, they are.
It is 6:10.
Precisely at 6:10.
It is 6:10, yep.
Do we still need to discuss the voting procedure?
Well,
then?
when we get to the discussion, maybe we can discuss the voting. I don't want to delay the candidates, so.
Right.
yeah.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor,
Council member file.
do we still need to approve the agenda?
I don't know if it's on here. It's not on. It's a special meeting.
Mm.
I do not see our first interviewee here yet.
All right, it's going to throw other people off. So let's go and talk about the voting procedure. So we'll have a board. Yes, Councilmember Shrubnik.
Just a thought, if Anastasia could do it, I would love to be able to submit votes and she tallies them. And it's not like Nigel's picking teams, Deborah's picking
Well,
teams.
see,
That was what
that's
I was
the
trying to
thing.
avoid.
Can't do that. It's an open public meeting. So we
Oh, we have to
vote.
individually do
Yes,
it. Oh,
we do.
okay. I thought just the deliberations had. to
No.
go public.
No. Deputy Mayor.
I mean, one other option we could do instead of having each person going around individually and us giving our 4 names or whatever would be we could just go with each candidate. We could all just raise our hands and
Yeah, right.
trust that we're only going to raise our hands for 4 of them,
Right.
which isn't quite as, I don't know. Yeah, this is uncomfortable no matter how we do it. So
Yep.
That's better.
That was going to be my suggestion. I just, especially since I'm first, I'm like, okay, or you, yeah, I'm not sure how fair it is that someone's first or, if we're all voting, we should, I think it might be more fair when we're looking at one person to vote
Okay,
for.
it looks like our
Well,
first
what do you say your 4 names or
Mayor
you
Baker.
vote one at a time, still going to come out the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mayor Baker, our first
Yes.
applicant is here, Ms. Mariel Medipour. I'm going to promote her now.
Great, but we need to then make sure we don't run over for the next person.
Okay. Good evening, Ms. Medipour. Your interview is about to begin, but I wanted to let you know that I will play a chime at the 5-minute warning and once again at the 1-minute warning, okay?
That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right,
Great.
well,
How are you doing tonight?
I am doing very well. Thank you so much. Sorry, I had a few technical difficulties.
That's
getting
fine.
in.
We're glad that you're here. We're going to ask you a series of questions and Councilmember O'Kane will ask the first question.
Please provide a 2 or 3 minute overview of why you believe you are a good candidate for the Planning Commission.
Thank you so much for this first question. And just want to start off by saying it's a pleasure and honor to be with you this evening. And just would like to thank you all for the opportunity to share a bit about myself, as well as why I'm a good candidate for the Kenmore Planning Commission. Just to share a little bit about who I am as a person, I'm a proud daughter of Mexican immigrants and the first in my family to attend college and to graduate with an advanced degree. My family and I moved to the Pacific Northwest over 5 years ago. And in looking at different communities and neighborhoods, we found the community where we wanted to live in and continue to raise our daughters here in Kenmore, and have never regretted that decision since we saw this house. It was actually our second to last house that we saw, and we're very, very lucky and love our neighbors in our neighborhood. So just a little bit about myself and my career as a public health professional. I've worked in the field of public health and as well have served as a public servant for over 20 years. I have a wealth of experience in working closely with residents with an eye to create communities that are reflective of their values and interests. in working with community-led efforts and involving planning and land use topics, with strategies that have included clean water initiatives, built environment projects, designing to improve walkability, housing solutions, as well as smart business growth and job development, as well as, for those of you that are in public service can understand, navigating sensitive conversations and issues. As well, I've dedicated my personal time in serving on various community boards in all of the communities that I've lived in. Locally, I'm an active member with both the Washington Latinx Health Board as well as the UCLA Alumni Seattle Network. However, I would be remiss if I didn't state that with COVID-19, it's impacted our communities in so many different ways, from eviction concerns to business closures, employment challenges experienced by both individuals and businesses, supply chain issues for goods and services that have led to either scarce resources or increased costs. At the same time, it's underscored the inequities and challenges that is experienced by Black, Indigenous, and people of color and other marginalized communities as a result of the systemic racism that we find across our institutions and systems. For almost 2 years, so it'll be actually 2 years at the end of February, I've been working very closely with our county's COVID-19 response, serving as the equity officer, where I've been responsible for assuring that equity considerations are included in public health policy level decisions, resource allocation, and response priorities. COVID-19, along with the anti-racism protests of the summer of 2020, catalyzed a reckoning across our country and in our region, excuse me, of what it means to plan for, respond to, and mitigate and recover from a disaster in an anti-racist manner. So all of my experience, both pre-COVID and over the last 2 years, has provided me with a unique perspective and understanding as to what Kenmore will need to recover from COVID-19, as well in looking at the socioeconomic, health, community, and social justice contexts that we need to move towards a post-pandemic recovery, but also the need to plan and prepare our community for future emergencies such as extreme heat challenges, as well as other extreme weathers that we find in our region now due to climate change. But most importantly, the need to consider how we best move forward operationalizing equity as planning policies are developed and implemented in order to ensure that all Kenmore residents are going to benefit from the improvements that are made to our city.
All right. Next question.
What do you think are the most important land use and planning issues the city should address in the next few years?
That is a really good question. And I think this is something that, I touched on the climate change, the emerging extreme weathers that we see due to climate change. And, there are a lot of member developments that we have, that we've been looking into as a community and as a region, such as housing sustainability. And, one of the things that we are trying to find, not just in Kenmore, but again, across the region, is how do we build housing that is affordable? But there's, a good amount of pushback as well if we think about conversations around missing middle housing. What does this mean for foot traffic? What does this mean for cars? Where in reality, if we really look at ways that we can improve upon the housing availability, different types of housing structures within our communities, we can actually look into, or actually have that be part of our response to climate change concerns, right? Because we can reduce our carbon footprint because of traffic. We can maintain green space. So adding housing doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to lose green space. It just means that you have to have different considerations. And really looking again from an equity perspective, how are we improving upon the land use that we have? So then that way the most people can benefit and not just a few.
Thank you. Next question.
Could you please provide an example of a teamwork experience where reaching a decision was an important goal, and explain what was your role on the team? What techniques did you and or the group use to reach a decision? And in hindsight, would you have done anything differently?
Thank you so much for that question. I have to say, I think my whole professional career, as well as all of the volunteer endeavors that I've been part of, have really constituted the need for teamwork and partnership development. I'm experienced in working with multi-sectoral stakeholders that have included residents, businesses, community and faith groups, as well as local, state, and federal government representatives. Oftentimes I've been the local government representative, but that doesn't preclude the fact that I've had to work with folks from different levels of government. I think an example that I'd like to include is that over the last 2 years, I have coordinated and facilitated the equity response team, or the ERT for short, as part of our county's COVID pandemic response. This group was formed in the early days of the response, and it was the first of its kind. It's a leading national model actually for equitable and inclusive emergency response. Comprised of this group are community members, including tribal members, a bioethicist, as well as city and county staff. And what we do is we work across cross-cutting issues, policies, considerations that are raised by community or partner agencies or response staff. And our team has played a role through many different endeavors in order to provide feedback and guidance as policies have been developed. And so my responsibility in that group is really to coordinate that meeting environment that provides the best opportunity for deep discussion by the group. And in order to reach decisions or to be able to provide guidance, it really begins with and continues with building and sustaining member relationships. You cannot move forward and making decisions in a really, in a positive manner without building and sustaining relationships. And so this really, started with developing team values that guides both our work and our interactions, because all of this leads to trust and respect and the ability to have deep and authentic conversations that are necessary to make decisions and again, to provide the guidance that we need to do as a group. When deliberating a challenge or opportunity, I work with the team to identify the questions that the group may have, review and research models, looking at the evidence base, sometimes the practice base of what might be helpful in finding solutions, identifying subject matter experts that will help inform in our decision-making process. So then that way we can identify the possible solutions and impacts. At that point, as a group, we have conversations. Again, we have to trust to have deep and authentic conversations where we can then come to a consensus and make a decision or provide the guidance that the stakeholders that we're working with need at that moment in time.
All right, Madam Clerk, how much time do we have left?
We have 3 minutes left.
All right, question number 4.
I'll go quickly. The Planning Commission may be discussing controversial issues. How would you suggest the Planning Commission facilitate discussion and decision-making to work towards resolution when conflicting opinions are expressed? How would you suggest the Planning Commission consider conflicting opinions expressed during a public hearing?
Thank you so much for the question. I think my suggestions on how to reconcile conflicting opinions are probably already practiced and what I've seen, at least in Planning Commission meetings. But it brings to mind a quote from an American political scientist, R.D. Putnam, that said, "Trust is a part of social capital. It's not a substitute for effective public policy, but rather a prerequisite for it and in part of a consequence of it." Or to put it even more simply, as a mentor of mine said, you can only work at the speed of trust. Work needs to be done before controversial issues are discussed, which means, as I mentioned previously, it's important to build and sustain relationships, not just between Planning Commission members, but most importantly, between the Planning Commission and the community at large. This is done through a number of different ways, through the commission meetings where the opportunity for opinions to be shared, again, respectfully and expressed is provided, through public discourse during planning forums, public presentation of information by data by subject matter experts or city staff that we can then use to make decisions or guidance. And then when discussing controversial items, again, it's important to listen to concerns as they're expressed, identify what is specific in the issue and what is the common ground that you can work together to bring and determine a resolution. As well as I would suggest, making sure that the conversations and decisions are being guided by both Kenmore's 20-year vision statement, as well as the values that are outlined in the cities and counties' declaration of racism as a public health crisis.
I think we're about out of time here. There's still a couple of more questions to go, but there's only one meeting one, and that is, are you available on the first and third Thursday of the month, Tuesday of the month?
I would be.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the next person so we can stay on schedule here?
Thank you so much again.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. I am waiting for the second person to join us at precisely 6:05.
Oh, I thought we were at that time,
Mm,
and that's why you popped on.
I wanted to give the 1-minute warning.
Is she still there or is she gone?
Miss Metaphor is gone.
Okay.
The next person for an interview is Mr. Hellman, and we're waiting for Mr. Hellman. I'm hoping he'll join us any second here.
Yeah.
And then Mayor Baker, which should be the next leadoff question?
That will be question number 1.
Very good. And that should be me because I'm number 2. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
And who's number 6? And that means Councilmember File, you're 7.
Okay, Mr. Hellman is here. I'm going to promote him right now.
Great.
Good evening, Mr. Hellman. I hope you can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Your interview is about to begin, but I wanted to let you know I'll give you a 5-minute warning and a 1-minute warning, and it'll sound like this. Okay,
Sounds good.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Hellman. We appreciate your interest in the Planning Commission. We're going to ask you a series of questions. We've got 7 questions and we've got 15 minutes to complete them in. So I just try and be concise. We're going to live within that time frame. So the first question is from Councilmember Marshall.
All right. Can you please provide a 2 to 3 minute overview of why you believe you're a good candidate for the Planning Commission?
Sure. One, thanks for having me. I'm happy to join. So I have a background in civil engineering. So I feel like I have an idea of how a city functions and how you design it. I also work for a regional entity. My day job is actually providing data and forecasting information to jurisdictions as they plan out to the future. So I feel like I have a unique perspective to actually help inform kind of some of the decision making that the city is facing as they move forward with their comprehensive planning updates. I feel like I'm maybe not your typical citizen. I have a day job that actually connects with what the Planning Commission does, but I actually feel like that brings me a unique perspective for the position.
All right.
Great.
Councilmember Kugler.
Thank you. What do you think are the most important land use and planning issues that the city should address in the next few years?
One of the biggest ones is housing affordability and the availability of housing in our city. And I think the city is already doing great things on that. But as you look at just the rapid growth that's occurred in our region, the cost of housing, a larger supply of housing will help benefit all of our citizens as we kind of grow together. And with that housing affordability, I think the next most important thing is how we actually connect people from where they live to where they're trying to go. I love the connections that we're making in terms of our non-motorized network. We have a great infrastructure in our city, and I think connecting people, especially to the high capacity transit expansions that are coming to 522, should be a major focus of what the city is kind of focusing and moving on with. And sorry, I'm trying to be really quick because I know you've got 7 questions.
You don't need to be really quick, but keep it within 15 minutes.
I'll try to keep it within a minute
really
or two.
quick now.
Yeah.
So you can take a little bit more time if you want to.
Okay.
Councilmember Herbig.
All right. So can you provide an example of a teamwork?
Did we get Councilmember Kugler?
Yes, she just went.
Okay, fine. Yeah, great.
We all go down one number every
right.
second. Please provide an example of a teamwork experience where reaching decision was an important goal. What was your role in the team and what techniques did you and or the group use to reach a decision? And in hindsight, would you have done anything differently?
Teams are always fun, especially when you get a wide variety of perspectives, which is the most important thing to get in a team. So probably my most recent, I'm trying to think of an example that would be good, was actually as part of a capital bond task force I was involved with the North Shore School District recently, which was part of developing that set of solutions that we're going to move forward to the voters in February. And so it was interesting that we had over 50 people as part of that, which was a unique perspective coming from it being remote. I believe one of our council members here was actually a member of that task force as well. And so one of the things that we worked through as we got into our groups in ways to kind of talk through things and come up with consensus in our groups to share was, one, setting clear ground rules for how you coordinate and work with one another. That's really, really important so that you get everybody talking and sharing their perspectives. You get a big risk in a team of having one person who likes to talk, dominating the conversations. And I felt like we did a really good job establishing that framework for how we would interact with one another so that everyone had a chance to talk and share their perspectives so that we could actually work through things and move forward. Not everyone's going to agree. You talk through things, you share, you work to develop kind of your key things you're trying to decide, your kind of metrics for your decision that you're making, and you can agree to those. But I really felt like one of the most important things of that team was everybody buying in from the beginning that you're part of it and everyone has an equal voice and you're working forward to move something.
Thank you.
All right. The Planning Commission may be discussing controversial issues. How would you suggest the Planning Commission facilitate discussion and decision-making to work towards resolution when conflicting opinions are expressed? And how would you suggest the Planning Commission consider conflicting opinions expressed during public hearing?
That's a really good question when it comes to, especially I would say most land use decisions are controversial. Everybody is wondering how it's going to affect where they live, right? You want to talk about single family zoning, and you can imagine how conversations about that and how providing a mix of housing will get a lot of people interested and excited about things. I think one of the most important things to do is, as you work through that, is to be, if you're open and transparent in your conversations, I always think that helps in your decision making and helping move things forward. You can't ever make everybody happy, but I truly believe that if you are open and transparent in the way you talk about things and you're clear about what you're trying to accomplish, you listen to people, you give people a chance to share their inputs, but you also share kind of what the important things are that you're trying to do, and you acknowledge what people are saying. I think that goes a long ways towards helping get through contentious issues. It doesn't always solve it. I'm a data person, so I really believe having open, transparent data can help a lot if you're clear with the information that you're sharing with people and you become unbiased in it. I think people can see that and believe it. And I truly do believe that that helps in the decision making and can make it smoother to get through contentious issues. I can only imagine what the city goes through on a daily basis in terms of all of your citizens who have questions about things. You know, being a data person, I'm usually in the background, so I don't get involved with too many of those things, but I really do feel like if you're open and transparent and share information with people, you can help move those decisions.
Thank you. Councilmember Srebnick.
If you are selected by the city council to be one of the 7 members on the planning commission, you'll be appointed to represent the entire community. How will you ensure the planning commission recommendations will represent the entire community's thoughts and vision?
That's a really good point, so that you don't always bring your own biases to everything that's made, right? You're as part of this commission, you're there to, in any kind of public participation like that, you're bringing your unique perspectives to the conversation, and that's why you're there, right? We all have unique perspectives and we want to share them, and we reflect our community as we share them. But in the end, as you work together as a group and you come up with decisions, your group is helping make decisions that reflect what is best for the city as a whole, not as what is best for you. And I think that's the most important thing that you can do, is once your group comes to a consensus on a decision, you all get behind it and you help inform people of what that decision is, and you help work together to move it forward. So you have all of your conversations amongst your group about what you should do, what you shouldn't do, why you think something is good, why you think something maybe should be differently. But once your group comes to that decision together, it's your role in that public, how do I want to say it, in that public position to help move forward what the group has decided is the best for the city.
All right, Councilmember File.
Is that 5 minutes to go? Is that what I heard the chime?
I believe that's what it is.
Okay.
Please provide a 2 or 3 minute overview of why you believe you are a good candidate for the Planning Commission.
Sure. I feel like I'm an open person. I care deeply about my community. I moved here in 2007. I was a Navy kid, so I moved all around as a kid. So I really had no place that I called home. Wherever I moved, wherever my family was home. My wife and I lived in downtown Seattle. We picked Kenmore to move here. We picked it because we wanted to start a family. Our biggest housing choice decision for us was school district. And so we looked where we'd have the best opportunity for who now is my 11-year-old son. And he's my inspiration for actually applying for the commission in the first place. He goes to Kenmore Elementary. This is his last year here. He is so excited that he goes to an elementary school that has the name of his city. He tells everybody whenever we travel anywhere that he's from Kenmore. He wears his Kenmore shirt with pride, and he really cares about this community. He keeps talking about how he wants to buy the house next door to us so that he can live in Kenmore and raise his family here. I care about the community because I care about my family, and I want to see all of our kids have the ability to live in such a great community. We have great opportunities, great resources, and we have a lot of challenges, right, with the rapid growth that's happening. And I love the idea of working together to help ensure that this community is a community that my son can live in when he's an adult.
All right, we have seemed to missed question number 7. So let's ask, do you have any questions for us?
So you're 7 members of the Planning Commission. How many positions are you looking to fill?
4.
4, okay. My only other question for you all is what, from your perspective, what are you hearing the most from your citizens about what is the biggest issue people are worried about?
You know, I think affordable housing is one of the big things that people are concerned about, providing for that missing middle. Anybody else have anything? Councilmember O'Kane?
Yeah, I'd say that and environment, the environment for the future related to our waterways and tree canopy and ensuring a healthy, beautiful place in our future. Thank you.
Councilmember Marshall?
Oops. I think supplying a balance in terms of preserving the cherished single-family housing that makes up much of our community and supporting its environmental benefits as our tree canopy, as the main holder of our tree canopy and our what we have left of our ecosystem in the face of rampant development.
Yes, Councilmember Shrubnik.
Yeah, environment issues, but also I continue to hear a lot of pedestrian safety issues, so pedestrian facilities.
So kind of everything.
Yeah, kind of everything. You're right.
All right, that's all the questions I have.
Okay. I want to thank you for taking the time of coming before us tonight and your interest in being part of the city. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You too. Madam Clerk,
Yes, Mayor Baker.
do we have the next person ready?
Not yet, but I'm assuming we will at 6:40.
Okay.
So Angela starts this time, is that right?
Yes, that is
And
absolutely
we do
correct.
ask all the
Angela starts
questions.
with-
We do ask all the questions, including
And
question
7.
6.
And 7.
Because we've missed 6 for
Yeah.
him. Yeah,
I mean, I think 6 was on the application also.
it was.
so-
It was for sure.
Yeah, 6 would have been, I believe, yours, Councilmember Shrubnik, and or
Councilmember File.
yeah, no, I think, yeah, she was 7, I think, or she was 6, and Melanie O'Kane, Councilmember O'Kane was 7, and so, yes. So I picked the wrong question to jump in on.
No worries. Now we know where we're going.
We'll get this figured out by the 8th person.
Yeah.
We will get it figured out by the 8th person. So Councilmember Kugler will do question number 1. Deputy Mayor will do 2. I'll do 3. Councilmember Shrubnik, you'll do 4. Councilmember File, you do 5. Councilmember O'Kane, you do 6. And Councilmember Marshall will do 7. So are they here yet? Evidently
No.
not. And who is next? Is that
Mr.
Dennis
Wyckoff-
Olson?
No, Mr. Derek Wyckoff is here. I'm promoting him right now.
Great.
Good evening, Mr. Wyckoff. I hope you can hear us.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
We
Yes,
can.
we can.
Your interview is about to begin, but I will give you a 5-minute and a 1-minute warning by playing a chime in the background, okay?
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Wyckoff, thank you very much for your interest in our community and the Planning Commission. We're glad that you're here tonight, and we're going to ask you a series of 7 questions. We have 15 minutes to do this in, so try to be concise, but not too concise, because we want you to take the time allotted. So we will begin the questioning with Councilmember Kugler.
Hello.
Hello.
Could you please provide a 2 to 3 minute overview of why you believe you are a good candidate for the Planning Commission?
Well, from what I gather of the Planning Commission, it could use some individuals that have some sort of personal interest in what's going on with the Planning Commission and with the city of Kenmore. And I certainly have that. And I have some experience in dealing with the planning department and the goings on and the hoops that one has to jump through and the navigating of the system to get from point A to point B to achieve our goals as a business and as a resident. And so I felt that maybe I could get involved and volunteer my time and energy to just help Kenmore be that much better, if there's any way that I can do that.
All right, thank you. Deputy
Okay.
Mayor.
What do you think are the most important land use and planning issues that the city should address in the next few years?
Well, one of my hopes for the city is to continue getting water access and public access to the water, similar to what's happening already, but I'd like to see continued use of that. And smart use of the little commercial space that we have and how to make that more pedestrian friendly and to make this less of a drive-through town and maybe more of a destination town, so that as a community, when we want to go do something fun, it doesn't start with leaving Kenmore. I would like Kenmore to continue to grow to be the place that people want to be.
Can you please provide an example of a teamwork experience where reaching a decision was an important goal. And what was your role on the team? And what techniques did you or the group use to reach a decision? In hindsight, how would you have done anything different?
Well, I have many of those experiences. I would say try to draw on one particular instance, probably opening hotels have been some of my bigger challenges, where we were collected from around the nation, even internationally occasionally, and plopped into a location to get a hotel running the way that the company wanted it to be recognizable as that brand entity, but get the locals that were hired to actually run it when we disappeared to be on board with following through on that brand goal. I think one of my biggest challenges was attempting to open a hotel in Mexico City in the middle of a citywide strike. And so suddenly we're not the team that was there to train the people, but suddenly we're the team now, boots on the ground, doing the work until the strike could be resolved around us. And then having to deal with a lot of federale and policia and other issues of layers of government that were setting up roadblocks as well. It was the most challenging one of those team efforts I've ever been a part of. I think there were 36 of us involved in that team from around the North America that were brought together. And I took on the valet department, which was using a hole with a rope to get down 5 floors in a parking garage, up and down when they valeted your car, because there was absolutely no street parking. So to secure your car in a garage, they would drive it down 5 floors and then climb up a rope through a hole where there was supposed to be a human elevator. Of course, OSHA wasn't really a big part of what's going on down there. And the replacement finally showed up. The planned replacement for the rope showed up, and it was a hay bale elevator. Now, I grew up on a farm. I know what a hay bale elevator looks like, and they bolted one of those things into this hole and got it up and down. So we had to find a welder to turn hay bale forks into platforms that people could safely stand on. And yeah, I don't know. That was the piece that I had to deal with human resources, with some OSHA inspector of some sort, and the team to get the humans that were supposed to use this device to buy into that plan, that it was safe. And all of this took about a week to get the training, make sure it was safe, get the OSHA person to sign off on this, just so this $100 million hotel had a functioning way to park your car so you could spend the night. It was like an afterthought, a total afterthought, that you couldn't just climb up and down a rope through a hole in concrete floors. And that was just my part of what I brought to the table every single night. So we would meet at 5 o'clock at night at the end of the workday to bring all of our project catastrophes to the table, to try to reallocate resources and to try to play whack-a-mole with what was now the most pressing matter. And mine, unfortunately, continued to be one of the more pressing matters for a while, with a looming grand opening deadline coming. We had to get this resolved. Luckily, the strike did end, and just in time for the national holiday for everyone to take 2 more days off. But we got it open. The elevator was deemed safe, and we didn't rob too many resources from anybody else. So the front desk opened, the valet opened, the hotel opened, the bar opened. The housekeeping was what we all became every night, because we didn't have any housekeepers, and we never did plug that hole until the strike was over. So at the end of our 5 o'clock meeting, we would have some pizza, and then we would go upstairs and we would all clean about 10 rooms before it was movie time. And but that was just something, you get it done. And much like everything else I do on a day-to-day basis, if you got to get it done, you just got to find a way.
Councilmember Shrubnik.
Thanks. I would have definitely failed that rope test. The Planning Commission may be discussing controversial issues. How would you suggest the Planning Commission facilitate discussion and decision-making to work towards resolution when conflicting opinions are expressed? How would you suggest the Planning Commission consider conflicting opinions expressed during a public hearing?
Well, political correctness and knowing that there's always eyes and ears out there, and making sure that we listen and that we try to get a balance on all sides and get all inputs. Nobody is necessarily more important than somebody else. So I think, number one, it's important to make sure everyone feels heard. And with the sensitive nature of the topics, and I have seen many of these meetings that you're talking about, and I understand a lot of the players involved, that yeah, I don't envy that position. And I think, honestly, I think listening and making people feel heard, and not speaking from the hip, coming off with half the knowledge, I think is the biggest issue I see, the biggest concern I have as even a citizen, just being a part of witnessing those meetings. I don't know if that answers your question, but from what I've observed, when we do a lot of listening and we do a lot of contemplating, and sometimes it's best just to say, we'll look into that and get back to you, or we can research that or find the right resources to dig into that deeper before we come up with some half answer. I think that's more respectable than shooting from the hip, personally, for lack of a better term.
Councilmember File.
Thank you. Mr. Whitecliffe, if you are selected by the City Council to be one of the 7 members on the Planning Commission, you will be appointed to represent the entire community. How would you ensure that the Planning Commission recommendations will represent the entire community's thoughts and vision?
Well, and that's one of the things I'm hoping to be able to bring to the Planning Commission, is be another one of those people that draws from a wide variety of opinions. And I do a lot of listening throughout my day, throughout my weeks. I do a whole lot of listening to the community, and I have a unique opportunity to be able to do that. And so even here, as I claim to be political Switzerland in my place of business, that allows me to do a lot of listening and to bring a lot of that feedback and boil it down and simmer it and see what ends up for the good of the many, as they say, to try and figure out what might suit the most people. Of course, you can't please everybody all of the time, but I think by doing my listening would be very helpful to bring a wide variety of opinions to the table, and at least make sure that they're acknowledged. If they can't be provided, at least make sure that they're acknowledged.
Councilmember O'Kane.
If appointed to the commission, would you be available to meet the first and third Tuesday evening of each month?
Yes. Yep.
Councilmember Marshall.
Do you have any questions you would like to ask?
Well, I would like to know what, from the council's perspective, what is the most hopeful goal to be attained out of this process when finding these candidates? And also, if you might be able to speak on behalf of the commission to find out or the committee, as to what they have voiced they're hoping might be plugged into their membership.
We're down to a minute.
Does anyone have an answer on that?
I mean, just speaking for myself, we're looking for, I think, smart people who are willing to do the work and be involved. And, there's a lot of a lot of work goes into the planning commission. I'm not sure what the planning commission themselves is looking for, other than somebody who's willing to step in and engage and get up to speed on the topics and plug in a meaningful way. I know that's what we're looking for also, just people that are engaged and willing to do the work.
Right.
And we're really looking for people who care about the city. And that's important. They care about the way the city is now, and they care about the way they see the city growing.
Right.
Councilmember Marshall, I had your hand in.
You nailed it. I think care about the city, and I also am, looking for keen and searching minds who can finesse, that balance that you say in respect of listening to everybody and being objective, and also, the mayor said, care about how the city goes forward.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Wyckoff.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Taking a decision tonight.
All right.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Mr. Vanderland is here. Mr. Vanderland, just so you know, your interview is about to begin. I will give you a 5 and a 1 minute warning by playing a chime in the background. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Mr. Vanderland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We're very happy that you want to be involved in the city, and we certainly appreciate everything you've done on the Planning Commission. Deputy Mayor Herbig, you have question number 1.
I do. Can you please provide a 2 to 3 minute overview of why you believe you're a good candidate for the Planning Commission?
Well, I think it comes down in my mind to both experience and also enthusiasm. This is something that I have been very close to, and the Planning Commission for some period of time, and continue to have a great deal of interest in continuing that work. Over this period of time, I've actually become very much interested, although I have to some extent throughout my life, in land use planning. And I've done quite a bit to educate myself more on it, and particularly understanding what the current issues are, and particularly both nationally and within Kenmore. My life experience and career experience, I spent 30 plus years understanding how regulatory efforts are accomplished and what they are, and interpreting them to non-expert users. That's really been the gist of my career. It's something that I think I bring to the Planning Commission, the ability to be able to do that, along with the financial expertise, which I think is a plus as well. Hope that's not more than 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Oh, that's fine. We've got 15 minutes and we've got 7 questions. So
okay.
What do you think are the most important land use and planning issues that the city should address in the next few years?
Well, I think that very clearly we need to deal with the issue of density and development within the city. We're stuck between 2 tidal waves. We've got the silver tsunami of an aging population, particularly that's pronounced within Kenmore, and folks there having rethink, or maybe wanting to rethink, maybe not being able to do anything about their living situation. And we're up against the Growth Management Act barrier as well. All of these move to needing to make some significant changes and decisions. Change is a decision. You can do it or not. The focus and the route you take to do that is a decision we get to make. And I think the Planning Commission has to, and for everything I've seen from the City Council, you're asking us to tackle that. And I think that's going to be a big part of our work. And it goes into not just availability of housing. We could talk about affordability of housing, availability of housing, but it also impacts the environmental choices we need to make. All of the infrastructure sorts of decisions that the City Council is going to need to make. All that's going to be driven by our land use decisions over the next couple of years.
Councilmember Shrevenick.
Great, thank you. Please provide an example of a teamwork experience where reaching a decision was an important goal. What was your role on the team? What techniques did you and/or the group use to reach a decision? And in hindsight, would you have done anything differently?
Hindsight's a powerful thing, particularly as you go back years and years. I have some regrets, but a good example, I guess, or one that comes top to mind in the work in part of the work that I've done over time, I've done a lot of work developing Medicaid healthcare programs, fund healthcare for the underserved in Washington State. And a number of times those will come up against some very entrenched, not necessarily opposing, but at least competing needs, particularly within the university, for which I've worked for a long time. We're all chasing the same state dollars. And at the federal level, having conversations with our congressional staff about what are their priorities and what we'd like them to do. And we've had a number of times to make decisions about, do we back off about what is now UW Medicine's priorities may be in order to allow priorities for other people in the community to come forward and have a goal, have a chance for achievement, including the university's needs. These aren't always easy decisions, and there's often they can be real career limiting moves. And there have been a number of times when I've been on both sides of that equation, including taking that risk of challenging power, saying to power. Not an easy thing. But I think if you're going to be genuine and if you're going to actually be successful over the long run, you've got to have the integrity to do that. And I hope that that's about as specific, I think, as I could get without impinging on some confidences.
Councilmember File.
Yes. The Planning Commission may be discussing controversial issues. How would you suggest the Planning Commission facilitate discussion and decision-making to work towards resolution when conflicting opinions are expressed? And how would you suggest the Planning Commission consider conflicting opinions expressed during a public hearing?
Well, I think there's two levels to that. One is conflicting opinions within the commissioners themselves. And I think from the experience I've had on other boards, you've really got to, and this is the chair's responsibility, I think, in a large part, to be able to build a sense of trust and that you have a safe space in order to, and a freedom in order to have those discussions. That's really critical, and that's hard work. When you're talking about community folks coming in, you've got to be respectful. I mean, you've got to listen. To me, that's probably one of the key skills of anybody who's on any kind of a board or commission sort of this, is you've got to be a good listener. You've got to be open to that. And you've got to not only be respectful in what you say, but also respectful in the way you do it. I think people will respond to that. You won't always get agreement. That's not the world we live in. But I think you have a better chance of creating either some kind of consensus, or at least when people leave the room, they understand that they've been part of a process that was fair. And again, I think that's something you learn to do as a group. And I think that'll be a challenge maybe for some of the newer members that are likely to come onto the commission this year, who may not have had that experience in the past. So some real work's going to have to be done to help them understand and to feel that they're in a safe place and understand and behave in the correct way.
Thank you. Councilmember O'Kane.
Question number 5. If you are selected by the City Council to be one of the 7 members on the Planning Commission, you will be appointed to represent the entire community. How will you ensure the Planning Commission recommendations will represent the entire community's thoughts and vision?
Well, I think that's always a tough one. You always have an affinity to the neighborhood you live in. But I see more homogeneity across the city than I see conflict or difference. And I think if we can focus as an individual and as a commission on what's good for the city and have a clear vision, and we've tested that vision across the entire population of the city, so we got some feedback and consensus on that, I think that'll help to make those decisions in those situations more easy to resolve. But I think that's the key, is to keep the focus and attention on what's good for the city as a whole. And if you can do that, and if you can justify the decisions and the opinion you have based upon the common good, I think you've got a leg up and a better chance of coming out with a good product.
Councilmember Marshall.
If appointed to the commission, would you be available to meet the first and third Tuesday evening of each month?
Already calendared.
Councilmember Kugler.
Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask us?
Yeah, one of the things, maybe it's not a question so much as a thought to put into your thoughts and maybe talk to Rob about, is one of the things that I think that is going to be important, particularly as you bring on folks that maybe not having much experience as the current commissioners do who are leaving, is some kind of education. We've had some educational programs that have been pretty good, but they've been fairly limited. I think some education, not only in land use rules and regulations, which we've had in the past, but also some of the things that you talked about. How do you operate effectively as a commission, as a group? What are those skills that you need to have to be effective to do that? Not everybody has had that experience or opportunity. So some of that I think would be very useful, particularly with new folks coming in. Is that it?
That's it, unless you have another question for us or that. We're through all of ours.
No, I think I've got a pretty good idea of what this all entails and what you'd be expected of it. So I'll give you back hopefully some time, and this has probably been the best speed dating experience that you could have. So good evening.
And happy birthday again.
Thank you. I'm going to go right back to it now.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so we are a little early, I take it.
That's correct.
Okay, we're gonna
take a 4-minute break, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a 4-minute break. And then we will start with Councilmember Shrubnik.
Do we have like a minute, David, or what do we got?
We've got less than a minute.
Okay,
I think we're starting at 10 for the next one.
got it. Okay. Anastasia will let us know, I assume.
Yeah, she will.
That's right. Okay, Council, Mr. Fessler is next. He's on his way. Stand by. Mr. Fessler, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh, wonderful. Just wanting to let you know your interview is about to begin, but I will play a 5-minute and a 1-minute chime in the background as a warning.
Okay.
Thank you for your interest in the community and your desire to serve. We appreciate people who in the community who want to participate. And I think that I have the next question. I think the deputy mayor asked, you think?
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Okay. So can you please provide a 2 or 3 minute overview of why you believe you are a good candidate for the Planning Commission? And before you start that question, we got 15 minutes and we have 7 questions. So don't be too fast, but try to be concise. So let me read that again for you. Please provide a 2 or 3 minute overview of why you believe you're a good candidate for the Planning Commission.
Thanks for that. So I'm sort of a newer resident in the community. I've been here for about 2 years now. But I've really come to like a lot of the attributes of Kenmore. I live over in the kind of by Rhododendron Park. But, you know, Kenmore's really, you know, got a lot of cool things going on in its downtown core. It's a community that's really growing. You know, we're going to be getting bus rapid transit soon. And so I'm really excited about what that holds for the future of Kenmore as we continue to grow, hopefully more as a transit-oriented community. You know, for myself, I'm actually a professional planner, and I feel like I do bring some unique skill sets and perspectives that come along with being a land use planner. You know, I know that the Planning Commission ends up spending a lot of time, you know, looking over policy proposals to adjust the comprehensive plan from time to time. And we're on a kind of a big trajectory here with the big 2024 comprehensive plan. And, you know, I think that the community needs to be more inclusive and sort of prepare for the next steps here as we do become more of a transit-oriented community. You know, as a land use planner, I also, you know, spend a lot of time reviewing projects. So I know what it's like to actually be on the other side of implementing codes. I think, you know, having somebody on the Planning Commission or another voice anyway, that actually has experience in that could be really useful as we try to suss out, you know, new development regulations, new processes for, you know, administering the code, you know, such that we can, you know, provide more certainty for developers that are going to come forward to try and realize different aspects of the community's vision, and also give more certainty to the community about the kind of things on the way.
Great. What do you think are the most important land use and planning issues that the city should address in the next few years?
I think housing is a critical one. I think anybody who lives in the area knows that the cost of housing is pretty high. And there's a lot of barriers to that. So I think that's going to be a critical issue for the Planning Commission to deal with, of how to do that, with established communities. Growth and change is a delicate and difficult task. But I think it's critically important, for the city to try and address that by rethinking some of its development standards. I know right now the city is engaging in a process to look at missing middle housing, and it looks like there's some good ideas that are happening there. But I think probably needs to go further to really try and address, the real lack of housing and the cost of housing. Probably needs to go deeper. The other thing again is the community is also getting some really good community assets with bus rapid transit on the way, and also delivery of the new bridge across the Snohomish River. And that's bringing along with it bike and pedestrian facilities with it. I think trying to end up focusing more investments in those areas, and also the land use that goes with that, to be more focused around land uses that are complementary to walk and bike and transit, is also really critical as the city moves forward here.
All right, Councilmember File.
Mr. Fissler, thank you. Please provide an example of a teamwork experience where reaching a decision was an important goal. What was your role in the team? What techniques did you and the group use to reach a decision? And in hindsight, would you have done anything differently?
Yeah, so right now, for my own agency, we're going through a process of trying to roll out a new permitting review system. And it's been a long effort, even though, the particular software a lot of folks have, but we're going to deeply integrate it with our review process. That's kind of been a touchy subject for a lot of folks, since it requires learning a new kind of program, and concerns about, the effect to applicants, and, the change in how people are doing the course of their work. And while I haven't been the lead, I have been, participating in that effort, even some of the training and whatnot. And, I think the one thing that I really wish we had done differently with this particular process, with my colleagues, is that we really would have started a little bit broader engagement with folks earlier on, because now we're getting close to the point of launch, and we're trying to play catch up and address a lot of the concerns. And that's taken a lot of extra time that we mightn't have had to spend in implementing this change, had we I guess been a little bit more engaging with folks on the front end.
All right, thank you. Councilmember O'Kane.
The Planning Commission may be discussing controversial issues. How would you suggest the Planning Commission facilitate discussion and decision-making to work towards resolution when conflicting opinions are expressed? How would you suggest the Planning Commission consider conflicting opinions expressed during a public hearing?
Yeah, I mean, land use is a very touchy area. And, I think it's really important to to listen to really the critiques and concerns that people are bringing forth and airing those, and having discussion around that. I think it's worthwhile spending the effort to really look at whatever the particular issue is, and figuring out, is there a way to address it, and how does the community end up moving forward, giving those opinions. But on the same time, decisions have to be made, and there's going to be clear cases where there might not be clear resolution around a given topic, either amongst members of the commission or the general public. And I think really, I think as anybody on any sort of board or commission really should be looking toward what the community values and objectives are when weighing those conflicting, where there might be conflict, to try and determine what is the best course for a final decision.
Councilmember Marshall.
One second, sorry about that. If you're selected by the city council to be one of the 7 members on the planning commission, you will be appointed to represent the entire community. How will you ensure the planning commission recommendations will represent the entire community's thoughts and visions?
I think that goes back to really, listening to what folks in the community are saying. There's going to be the public hearings. People are going to be sending in comments. And I think it's really important as a commissioner to spend that time really listening and reading through that commentary to get an understanding of where folks are coming from, and really what may underlie some of their concerns, or even some of their, some of their hopes and dreams of the community. And so, I feel, as a planning commissioner, that I really would want to spend that time. And, even talking to folks, I'm happy to do that too, to get a better understanding of where they're coming from, and see how we can arrive at a place that really is going to end up working as best as it can for the community.
Councilmember Kugler.
If appointed to the commission, would you be available to meet the first and third Tuesday evening of each month?
Yeah, I'll have the time to be able to spend for those meetings, in addition to putting in the time to look at the staff reports and other materials before the meeting.
Deputy Mayor.
Do you have any questions that you would like to ask us?
No, but I really appreciate your time this evening.
Well, we're way ahead of schedule, so you haven't even gotten a 5-minute warning yet.
Oh, we've got more time. Okay.
I think we've got about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
I think next one's at 7:25.
Well, I don't necessarily have anything specific to the planning commission, but I'm happy to ask other questions of the council if there's interest.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a question, please.
Well, so I'm interested with Councilmember Baker's, Councilmember Baker in particular. So, I understand that the bus rapid transit, on 522 is coming in a couple of years. I know that there's an issue related to, with the fact that the parking facilities are going to be delayed for a while after the project is completed. What sort of ideas do you have about, getting people to and from, the community that may be further away from the key
Yeah,
bus stops.
that's a big concern of mine. There's a project that's been bumped up that, in my opinion, shouldn't been bumped up. That's taking away the parking garages from us. And it's something that I'm going to continue to try to work for, because if we can't have a place for people to get out of their car and get on rapid transit, people are just going to continue to drive. And I don't think that's necessarily what we want. It is a big concern of mine, and it's something that I am putting a lot of effort into. So.
Thank you. Mayor Baker, our next applicant is here.
Great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Olson. I want to let you know that your interview is about to begin, but I will play a chime in the background for your 5 and 1 minute warning.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. We certainly appreciate your interest in the community and helping us figure out which direction the community is going. We're going to ask you a series of 7 questions. We've got 15 minutes to do this in. So try to be concise with your answers, but don't be too concise. Otherwise, we just finish early. And Councilmember Srebnick, I believe you've got the first question.
Thanks. Hello, Dennis. Please provide a 2 to 3 minute overview of why you believe you are a good candidate for the Planning Commission.
Well, the first reason is that I have been and am currently on the Planning Commission. So I'm aware of the things that have gone on in both the public hearings and the discussions that the Planning Commission has had. And I'm primarily interested because I want to make sure that whoever you select is going to be able to have some continuity. I have no idea who the other candidates are.
Councilmember File.
Question number
2.
Thank you. What do you think are the most important land use planning issues that the city should address in the next few years?
Well, I think you're starting to address them through the process that we've been going through. They need to be wrapped up and resolved. There's just a lot of open little issues. The Planning Commission itself has decided that some things can be a terrible shock to the community and has chosen to go incrementally to see what the impacts of the decisions that are made and how that will work in the community. And there's been a lot of concern, of course, expressed, particularly at the I guess it would be the workshop that was held, and a lot of definitions needed to be gone through. A lot of people were struggling with what they meant. So the continuity and having some experience to help with that is good. That's not to deny that there's been a lot of good work done and presented by staff. So as a member of the Planning Commission, I want to give thanks to the staff for their help in leading us through some of the factual gathering.
Councilmember O'Kane, question number 3.
Apologies. Please provide an example of a teamwork experience where reaching a decision was an important goal. What was your role on the team? What techniques did you and/or the group use to reach a decision? In hindsight, would you have done anything differently?
Reaching a decision is often give and take. Everybody comes with a different set of views on an issue. And if you're listening to what is being presented and what your colleagues are saying, you sort of figure out what makes the most sense and you try to pick a reasonable balance of the different viewpoints. So I think having a balance in how you present things and discuss them civilly helps in coming to a final decision that is acceptable to everyone.
Councilmember Marshall.
Sorry, can't hear you.
He's got it.
Okay, and we're on number 4, correct? All right.
Yes, you're on
Planning
number 4.
Commission may be discussing controversial issues. How would you suggest the commission facilitate discussion and decision-making to work towards resolution when conflicting opinions are expressed? How would you suggest the Planning Commission consider conflicting opinions expressed during a public hearing?
That comes back to some of the things that I was saying before. You have to be listening. You have to look if there's common ground that you can provide. And sometimes there are going to be conflicts that are diametrically opposed. And you're just going to have to work through it and hopefully do it civilly so that the people will feel that they were heard, even if they didn't get the decision they wanted.
All right. Councilmember Kugler.
If you're selected by the City Council to be one of the 7 members on the Planning Commission, you'll be appointed to represent the entire community. How will you ensure the Planning Commission recommendations will represent the entire community's thoughts and vision?
I'm not sure you can ever be sure that you can reflect everybody's position, because there are those that are not the same, and there are going to be different shades that everybody is looking for. But again, I go back to you try and balance what you're hearing, and you try and see if there's a common ground that you can go forward. And sometimes it's a long educational process. I realize you may not have time for that in making the decision, but again, you have to work at it. I think I'm going through these questions pretty quick. You're going to be able to get rid of me.
You really are, because we only got 2 more to go, and trust me, they are very short. Deputy Mayor.
If appointed to the commission, would you be available to meet on the 1st and 3rd Tuesday evening of every month?
Yes. Thank you for the easy one.
You're welcome.
Oh, here's an even easier one. Do you have any questions for us?
I do, because I'm always interested in what the council is thinking. I don't always get a chance to watch all your meetings. I've watched a couple. And I know it's a challenge. The last meeting, you guys had spent a lot of time on the financial work. And I can see that that's been a very complicated issue with a lot of different issues arising that I thought you'd work through it well. And so it's a good example for me to learn how you guys handle conflict or resolving issues.
Anything else?
No.
No? We're really early on this one.
Sorry, but
No,
I figure it would be good for you anyway to have a little break.
You've been on the commission for a while, and you've got what you're doing in this position. So we really appreciate the time you've taken tonight and because we know those meetings take a lot of time. All right, let's see. We have got until 7:40. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Olson.
I will jump off then. Thank you.
Yep. So you want to take 6 minutes?
Yeah.
Let's take 6 minutes and we meet back here and start our next interview at 7:40.
Good evening to you, Mr. Quadri. Can you hear me?
Good evening. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Wonderful. I can hear you perfectly. Wanted to let you know you're going to begin at 7:40 promptly, but just so you know, I will be giving you a 5 and a 1 minute warning by playing a chime in the background, okay?
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Baker, it is 7:40.
It is indeed. Thank you, Mr. Quadri. We appreciate your coming out tonight, and we appreciate your interest in our community. We have 7 questions for you. We have 15 minutes to get through these questions. So try to be concise, but not too concise. We want to give you all of the time that's available to you.
I appreciate that.
Let's see, who starts first? Are we back to Councilmember O'Kane?
Is it Councilmember File? I think I'm number 2 this
Yeah,
time.
the first question is Councilmember File. Great. Councilmember File, please.
Thank you. Please provide a 2 or 3 minute overview of why you believe you are a good candidate for the Planning Commission.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Councilmember File. Well, me and my wife got married July 4th of 2019. We moved to Kenmore June 1st of this year. I'm a local kid, grew up in Kirkland, the Finn Hill area. I love this area. This is an area where I can see myself raising a family, have no kids so far, but hopefully in the next few years, we'll have a nice large family or whatnot. But just moving here, living here for the past, I'd say 6 months or so, it's been just amazing to meet my neighbors, some of the people in my community who are just open to progressiveness, progression, and growing the city in this town in a way that I haven't seen before. So like I said, I grew up in Kirkland. I was born in Saudi Arabia. My family's originally from Pakistan. I moved here when I was about 8 years old. I'm 40 years old now. Been a lawyer since I was about 22, 23 years old, doing criminal defense law since I was 23. I want to give back to the community. And I'm at a point in my life where I certainly want to be able to make an impact in my neighborhood. I bought a home here with my wife, and this is the area where I want to be able to live for the rest of my life and make an impact to your children, my children, and people that are in my area. So I really do believe that this is a good opportunity for me to get my feet wet in the whole governmental process. I know it's not a councilman position, but it's a start. And I do think that with my experience with being an attorney, I think that's really going to hopefully benefit the community in a way where I can give back to my neighborhood at this point. Yeah.
All right, Councilmember O'Kane.
What do you think are the most important land use and planning issues that the city should address in the next few years?
Yeah. I've been up to date as to, some of the issues that have come to being in terms of the missing middle here in Kenmore. I do have my opinions on those issues, but I truly do believe that in order for us to even get there, there are certain things that we need to focus on. It should be a level step process where you focus on the infrastructure, you focus on building a city center in Kenmore, you focus on sidewalks and making this town a place where I can walk to the store, where I can bike to the grocery store or whatnot. So I do think the whole infrastructure in Kenmore should be focused on. I know the issue that has come up with the missing middle and housing is an important issue in my opinion. And I do think that's something that we certainly should focus on. I obviously need to educate myself a little more about some of the other issues that are happening here. But that is one issue that I do think that is very important for the city of Kenmore.
Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you. Please provide an example of a teamwork experience where reaching a decision was an important goal. What was your role on the team? What techniques did you or the group use to reach a decision? In hindsight, would you have done anything differently?
Sure. Well, I have my own law practice, as some of you may know, and me and my law partner started our own practice back in 2009. And in terms of just kind of marketing and advertising to our clients and what kind of clientele we're reaching out to. There's several ways, especially in private practice and criminal defense. You can certainly target people that have loads and loads of money, or you can target people who may need some help and financial help. And my practice has always been, in terms of my legal practice, is to help people that may not always be able to afford my retainer fee or whatnot. And sometimes my law partner, he may have a different idea of how to market our business. It's you have to take a step back and kind of think from the middle. And in a situation where you have your own business, I certainly do think that I have been able to convince him to work as a team in terms of helping people that may not always be able to afford legal fees. But again, this is an experience from my professional life, and hopefully that kind of answers your question a little bit. But I do think working cohesively with people, understanding their side, obviously in a private practice, making money is an important thing, but at the same time, you want to be able to provide to the community as well. And, taking a step back and kind of taking other people's ideas, and obviously expressing your ideas as well, is a very important aspect of any kind of business, not just the legal profession. But that would be one example of where I have been able to do that in my professional life.
Councilmember Kugler.
The Planning Commission may be discussing controversial issues. How would you suggest the Planning Commission facilitate discussion and decision-making to work towards resolution when conflicting opinions are expressed? And how would you suggest the Planning Commission consider conflicting opinions expressed during a public hearing?
Yeah, I do believe that the purpose of a Planning Commission or council members is to see what the community is wanting. And I truly respect everyone's opinions in regards to what their opinion is about certain issues. But I do think that it is good to have a difference of opinions and reach an amicable resolution. And that's kind of going back to my law practice. Is as a defense attorney, you do have to work with the prosecutor's office to come up with an amicable resolution to be able to get the best result for your clients. And I know that's might be a differing example, but that's kind of what we have to do with the Planning Commission as well. Is being open to people's opinions, seeing what your neighbors have to say about a certain controversial issue, deciding what your opinion is, and kind of moving forward with that. I do think that I do have the ability to work with people with different opinions. I always try to think from the middle. I call myself a more middle of the road thinker, and that's, I think, a very important something very precious to me, because I do think that you should be able to kind of accept other people's opinions and express yours as well, and kind of move forward with that.
Deputy Mayor Herbig.
So if you're selected by the City Council to be one of the 7 members on the Planning Commission, you'll be appointed to represent the entire community. How would you ensure the Planning Commission recommendations will represent the entire community's thoughts and vision?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
So if you're selected to be one of the planning commissioners, you'll be appointed to represent the entire community. How would you ensure that the Planning Commission's recommendations will represent the entire community's thoughts and vision?
Yeah. I am still, and I'll be honest with you, I'm still getting to know Kenmore. I grew up in Kirkland in the Finn Hill area. I played for the Kenmore Coyotes, the soccer team, and I still want to go around Kenmore with my wife and my family and kind of get to know people from everywhere. I live in the Up Lake area, and I go down to the Safeway down the street, and I try to try to get to know people as much as possible. And, you know, I have a few clients, you know, again, going back to my practice here, I do have a few clients in Kenmore from all walks of life. I think there's a trailer park right next to the Safeway, and I've gone there and I've hung out with some of my, you know, clients over there. And it's really important for people to be able to be accepting of everyone. And that's what my goal is for the next few years, whether hopefully I'll be elected to this planning commission. And even if not, I do want to get to know people in this area, because this is where I see myself for, you know, the next, you know, 25, 30 years or whatnot. And I do want to make an impact. And so I do want to get to kind of get to know people in this area.
If appointed to the commission, would you be available to meet the first and third Tuesdays in the evenings of each month?
Yes, absolutely. You know, anytime that I have had an opportunity to serve on any board or whatnot, I do take those roles seriously, because it is an honor, especially for something like this, especially when I'm serving my community. I absolutely would be available for that. Although I do go to bed early, you know, but at the same time, I have no problem being engaged, being as productive as possible. Although this will be my first time in any kind of capacity. You know, that kind of is beneficial, because I come from a non-biased perspective, I think, and I do think that I'm open to educating myself, open to learning, and I'm open to hopefully making an impact in our community here.
Councilmember Shrubnik.
Yeah, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask us?
Yeah, so the first question that I have is how long are these meetings typically last by, and what kind of issues are we addressing at this time for the next year or so that are you know, on the agenda?
Well, I think the meetings typically run a couple hours, if I'm not mistaken, and others can maybe speak to I know one of the issues, as you mentioned, is kind of bringing forward the recommendations around missing middle and single family zoning. So that's, I know, kind of coming up very shortly. I'm not remembering what is coming up after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, please finish your thought. My apologies.
No. So yeah, missing middle, I think, is taking up a lot of the time of the commission, looking for what we can do for affordable housing in Kenmore. So the people making $15, $20 an hour can live here and not have to rely on driving 50 miles. So that's the biggest thing. And a lot of the issues require a lot of reading, a lot of study, and it can be daunting, but it's a very important part of the community that we really, really need to have input on. The Planning Commission make recommendations, but it's the City Council that makes the final decision. And there's some things that we just take straight from the commission we agree with. There's other things that we have to hash over because we're not totally in agreement. But yeah, 2 to 3 hours, I think, on the meetings. Councilmember Shrubnik has a much better idea of that because she was on the Planning Commission for a period of time.
Sure. Are these planning commission meetings, I'm sorry, are these planning commission meetings typically with the council members, or is it just planning commission?
It's planning commission.
Gotcha.
There's some council members that go to the meetings at certain times to hear what's going on and try to get a feeling of where the public is at. But these are the planning commission's meetings. We don't interfere.
Gotcha. And is the public involved as well with these planning commission meetings? Yeah, certainly.
They're public meetings. Anybody can attend that wants to, and there's public hearings held there where you get people coming in and expressing their points of view and their comments on a particular issue. So, absolutely.
Yeah. And with COVID, I suspect that most of these meetings are being held by Zoom at this point.
For now, yes, they're all Zoom. Okay. We are looking to have that discussion, I believe it is next week, where we're going to be talking about getting back together potentially, or a hybrid situation. But there are those of us that feel that we've been apart too long, that we get more things accomplished when we're together and a better understanding. But it's all open for discussion. We don't know.
Absolutely. Well,
And then we got Omicron that has put a new wrinkle into all of this. So
yeah. Well, I certainly appreciate all of your services to the city of Kenmore, and thank you for this opportunity to hopefully be able to serve on the planning commission if selected here.
thank you. And if for some reason you're not, please stay involved.
Absolutely.
There's other opportunities, and
Absolutely.
we appreciate your stepping up.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. We do have our final applicant in the audience. I'm attempting to promote them, but for some reason Zoom is being a little bit glitchy, so I think what we might do is allow them to talk and test if we can at least hear them.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. We might have been successful. Miss Matthews, are you with us? Can you hear us?
I am. Can you hear and see me?
We can hear you, but we see a picture of a very handsome, gentle man.
Oh no. Oh no. Okay. I had to use my.
I think the most important thing is that we can hear you. Let me go ahead and try one more time to promote you.
Got it.
As a panelist. Oh, there you are. Wonderful. Okay, your interview is about to begin. I will be giving you a 5-minute and a 1-minute warning by playing a chime.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi there. How are you?
Hi.
Thank you very much for taking the interest in our community and wanting to be a part of this, and certainly being here tonight to let us ask you a few questions. We're going to be, you've got 15 minutes. We're going to be asking 7 different questions, and take your time in answering the questions, but in the same sense, be concise, because we want to be able to ask you all the questions and give you time to say a couple things. So anyway, we will start with the first question. Councilmember O'Kane.
Please provide a 2 to 3 minute overview of why you believe you are a good candidate for the Planning Commission.
First, I wanted to say thank you so much for this opportunity, for your hard work and for your time. One of the things is that, I'm doing this is because I really, really love the city. I love my neighbors. I love my community, our small businesses. I love seeing our community families gather at the hangar. I feel very passionately about leaving behind a Kenmore that provides all of our existing and future families with opportunities to own a home they can afford, opportunities for jobs, a lakefront where families can have birthday parties in the park, trails to explore, play a soccer or a baseball game, go for a swim, catch a ferry, or eat delicious food at a family locally owned restaurant on the water. A Kenmore that contributes to our planet instead of taken away from it. And a naturally restored lakefront that is recreational instead of industrial. I am a unique candidate because over this past year, I have experienced what it's like to live directly next door to a very large development project. And I'm really eager to use my experience from this to help improve the development processes of our rapidly growing city. I want to play a part in creating rational and reasonable solutions to help ease the growing pains our current residents experience that come from, achieving our city's goals. And I sincerely believe that strong collaboration between our community, our city management, and developers is the key to our success. And as city projects have many complex moving parts, my experience building a large and successful integrative medical practice from the ground up gives me the attention to detail that is required to handle large projects and goals. In addition, my prior work experience being part of a small cross-discipline team was instrumental in the growth of a national restaurant chain from 15 to 35 restaurants in 10 years. I have a pretty diverse collective experience. It's given me strong discipline and rigors, consistent behaviors that yield predictable and achievable results. And although I don't have practical experience with city planning, I have already completed the required city planning courses offered by the Department of Commerce so that I can start to be more knowledgeable and a positive collaborator and contributor to our planning commission. I have also studied Kenmore's comprehensive plan, and I am currently studying the Growth Management Act. I am very sincerely eager to learn from senior members of the commission to continue growing my abilities to be the best planning commissioner as possible. So thank you.
All right. Next question, Councilmember Marshall.
Yes, Ms. Matthews, we still have the handsome gentleman on display.
Oh gosh.
All right.
I don't know. I'm so sorry.
All right. And what do you think? There you go. What do you think are the most important land use and planning issues the city should address in the next few years?
Oh, well, we're working on them already, but because Kenmore is situated in such a perfect location, equally between two big growing cities, it's grown so significantly over the last decade, and it's a perfect location. It's why we moved here, because my husband works in Bellevue, I work in Seattle, and it is because it is so perfectly situated that so many people want to live here and developers want to build here. We're going to grow. There's no way around it. We need to increase the density of our housing, but we need to do it carefully and responsibly so that we don't destroy our natural resources and our environment. It is just so very important to me that our kids and our future families can afford homes in Kenmore. So one of the biggest issues I see is how can we more thoughtfully increase the amount of affordable housing for our city's families, and at the same time, find ways to mitigate the environmental and climate impacts that occur with our rapid growth. I feel really passionately about finding ways to balance our needs for growth and expansion with protecting our tree canopies, protecting our natural resources, our parks, green spaces, and I want to help find creative ways to minimize the growing pains our current residents will experience with that growth that are inevitable. And also, I think it's really important to make our Lake Point area a destination for our community, and at the same time, one that we can restore, that can add to and protect our natural resources and wildlife habitats. It's also something I feel is very important to accentuate our city's identity. That was, can move on.
Councilmember Kugler.
The profile picture changed again.
Oh
just
my
as a heads
gosh,
up.
why? I am so sorry.
That's
I'll
okay.
never use his computer again. All
Great.
right.
Could you please provide an example of a teamwork experience where reaching a decision was an important goal? What was your role in the team? What techniques did you and or the group use to reach a decision? And in hindsight, would you have done anything differently?
I love this question. Teamwork makes the dream work. I have been a part of a team my whole entire life, from high school sports to my graduate school, student council, to restaurant opening teams, to the most important team I work with, which is my family. And lastly, the team I currently collaborate with in my business. Successful collaboration requires communication, coordination, and cooperation. And I feel very strongly that collaboration is the key to success, and being part of a successful team, it really requires the respect and understanding that your team members are going to have different views, ideas, and concerns, as well as different skills, knowledge, and priorities. And balancing that and shining a light on each person's strength to is really where the magic happens for a good team. And as a business owner in business management, being part of a team is the reason why my business is successful. I'm part of a team every single day. Listening to people with compassion and collaborative problem solving are at the core of what I do all day, what we do all day, every day. Decision-making process that we use is really been critical to our success. We always involve the team in the process of decision-making with creating a constructive environment. We foster a collaborative mindset through questions and advocacy. It helps create balanced arguments. We create a psychologically safe environment that allows ideas and perspectives to be communicated without fear. And we always reiterate our goals and the purpose of our decision. The goals we're working towards should always be clearly articulated and constantly reiterated throughout our process so that we can ensure they're achieved. And if I would have done anything differently, I am where I am because I am not afraid to fail. If we make mistakes, I deeply believe that every mistake we make helps us become better. Failure and the knowledge that comes with it has helped me be a better person. It's helped me do better for my family, my team, and my business.
Deputy Mayor Herbig.
Thank you. The Planning Commission may be discussing controversial issues. How would you suggest the Planning Commission facilitate discussion and decision-making to work towards resolution when conflicting opinions are expressed? And how would you suggest the Planning Commission consider conflicting opinions expressed during public hearings?
Well, the Washington State training required to fulfill the position of a planning commissioner outlines a clear set of guidelines for this type of situation, and our existing commissioners already utilize the appropriate tools when conflicting opinions are expressed. But this is where our decision-making process becomes critical. I would actively listen to all opinions without judgment and encourage a safe feedback space, and most importantly, be respectful of everyone's voice, regardless of my position. It is important that the community's view is properly expressed during discussion, as we are the representatives of our community's needs, vision, and goals. And the community is really the 8th member of our planning commission. And during a public hearing, our tools are already in place and utilized. I would remain calm. I would listen without judgment. I would gather as much information as possible from each opinion, and I would not move too quickly to make a decision. If there are differences in interpretation that cause conflict, which happens a lot, differences need to be clarified and understood, and it's the commission's job to consider multiple points of view to cultivate a fair, well-rounded perspective in order not to merely solve problems through a systems approach, but to reach the best solutions for our community.
All right. If you were selected by the City Council to be one of the 7 members on the Planning Commission, you will be appointed to represent the entire community. How will you ensure the Planning Commission recommendations will represent the entire community's thoughts and vision?
The Planning Commission represents the citizens of Kenmore and serves our city council. And we do have current tools in place that are well utilized, such as, our public hearings and comments. And we're also really good about, sending out surveys and polls and things like that. What I might add to this is increasing our community's knowledge and education about how our city planning and how our city council work. One of the things I would like to work on is really increasing our community's engagement in and knowledge of our processes, because it will help shape our city's goals and give us a greater awareness, give the citizens a greater awareness of the projects we're working on. I really thoroughly enjoy brainstorming with people to come up with solutions, and I feel that there are other avenues that are yet to be explored that will maybe better amplify our community's voice. And as a commission, it is our responsibility to develop and listen to those channels.
Councilmember Shrebnick.
Yeah, if appointed to the commission, would you be available to meet the first and third Tuesdays of evenings of each month?
I am retiring in January, so I will absolutely have the time to dedicate to that.
Councilmember File.
Ms. Matthews, do you have any questions that you would like to ask of us?
I do. I would really love to know what improvements or changes would the council like to see in the planning commission?
To lead in here, I think the key to a healthy planning commission discussion is discussion and input by all participants. So active participation is really important. I think that is a improvement that could be added by all members of a planning commission that we appoint. Thank you.
Certainly the planning commission has to work together. So personalities certainly play a big part in it. But I think the most important part is the love of the community. You really have to love Kenmore and want to help plan for the future and direct how you envision this to go. But you have to remember the Planning Commission is a commission. We make the final decisions and you present, and sometimes your decisions are great. Sometimes your decisions have a lot of controversy in the council and we need to work through it. So thank you very much for coming tonight. We appreciate your taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you so much for this time and for the opportunity to share myself and my skills and my dream for Kenmore. Thanks.
Thank you. Miss City Clerk.
Yes, Mayor.
I believe that is the last of the interviewees. Discussion. Council. This is, yes, Deputy Mayor.
I am just, as usual, but this particular group of folks really blew me away. We have some hard decisions to make in the next few minutes, I think.
Yes,
I'm just looking back over the list and struggling to come up with 4 or to limit it to 4. So
yeah, this is one of the best groups I think we ever had come in front of us. And so I'm sure we'll keep these names in reserve and at least I hope we will vote to do that. And because there's some excellent people here. Councilmember Srebnick.
I think Councilmember Kugler had her hand up first.
Okay, Councilmember Kugler.
I mean, this is a great position to be in where you have, 8 really great candidates who all bring a variety of different experience to the table. I do have one question for us though, and that is, I thought I recall that our rules require a certain amount of time, having lived in the city, to qualify for planning commission. Is that right or not? Am I remembering that incorrectly?
We did have that discussion, but I think it was for a different office. I think we had that discussion when we were appointing someone to the council. So I don't think we've ever had that discussion for the planning commission. Deputy Mayor.
yeah, and I think I remember Ms. Bent sending us an email saying that there weren't any residency or length of residency requirements for planning commission. I could be misremembering that, but I seem to remember seeing an email a week or 2 ago.
We're promoting Miss Bent right now, but it appears that you have to be a resident, but there's no time length requirement.
Right. Mrs. Bent.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you heard the question, right?
I did. There is not a time length for a residency requirement. You need to be a resident, but there's not a time length.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Councilmember File.
Thank you. You know, again, what an amazing group of candidates we have to choose from tonight. Just spectacular. I'm really, really pleased to see the level of interest and a commitment to seeing a bright, beautiful Kenmore for, you know, for all of our community. And I'm excited to see what happens tonight. This is going to be a hard decision. Absolutely a hard decision tonight to make.
Councilmember Shrubnik, I'm sorry. You were really next year.
No, it's okay. Just, it's a similar comment. I described it just a minute ago as an embarrassment of riches. I mean, these are fantastic candidates, and I really do hope that they stay involved. I think that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's important. That there will be 4 that will not be chosen, but my goodness, I want them to stay involved with the city because, like everybody said, this is going to be a really hard decision because any one of them would be great. Anything else? All right. How have we decided on the voting? We're each going to give 4 names. Is that what we've decided? Yes, Councilmember O'Kane, then the Deputy Mayor.
I thought we were going to vote by candidate.
Okay, we can certainly do that. Is that your recollection, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I think if we just all agree that we're only
Great.
voting for 4 folks, and then we just go down in any particular order and go candidate by candidate. Hopefully that'll clarify things a bit.
Let's just do that in the order that the way they were presented to us. And so let's go ahead and start with Muriel Medahor.
And just give me a minute so that I can track everything, okay? Stand by. Mayor Baker, Deputy Mayor Herbig, Councilmember Kugler, Councilmember O'Kane, Councilmember Shrubnik, Councilmember File.
Craig Hellman.
Councilmember Kugler, Councilmember Shrubnik, Deputy Mayor Herbig.
Derek Wyckoff.
Mayor Baker, Deputy Mayor Herbig, Councilmember Marshall, Councilmember Shrubnik, Councilmember File, and Mr. Herbig, I got you. I got you, Mayor Baker.
All right. Michael Vanderlind.
Mayor Baker, Deputy Mayor Herbig, Councilmember O'Kane, Councilmember Kugler, Councilmember Shrubnik.
Stephen Fessler. Dennis Olson.
Mayor Baker, Councilmember Marshall.
Saad Quadri.
Councilmember O'Kane, Councilmember Marshall, Councilmember File. Oh, 1 second. Councilmember O'Kane, Councilmember Marshall, and Councilmember File.
Christina Matthews.
Councilmember Marshall, Councilmember O'Kane, Councilmember File, and Councilmember Kugler.
All right. So no council member has voted more than 4 times. And can you tally the votes real quick?
Yes, stand by. The top 4, correct?
Yes.
Mariel Metapore with 6 votes. Derek Wyckoff with 5 votes. Michael Vanderland with 5 votes. And Christiana Matthews with 4 votes.
All right. Make sure you convey our thank you to everybody. And please mention to everybody how impressed we were with the quality of the candidates. And please ask them if we can keep their name on the list, because we do get vacancies. All right.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. I will relay that to Ms. Bent as well. I know she's in the audience. And before you transition, I know with your blessing, we did want to give a quick shout out to all of our guests and friends in the audience. I know there wasn't a public comment component, but we just want to say hello to Mr. Peoples, Mr. Dwight Thompson, Stacy Valenzuela, Tracy Benishinsky, and Victoria Grayland, who are here, and of course, many of our devoted staff. So hello and thank you.
Hello and thank you. Indeed. All right. Councilmember File.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Would we like to have a list of candidates to hold on to for possible vacancies?
That's what I had just said.
Okay, I didn't
I
quite
was
hear that.
asking her to make sure and ask them, and because we want to hold them, because we do get vacancies.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I had a little internet glitch there, so thank you.
That's fine. All right. Next item on the agenda is the Salary Commission. I've had 5 different people apply. I have talked with everybody, and the names I'm bringing forward are Doug Levy, Stacy Danuski, and Darlene Ademba. Darlene has been very active in the community. I know her name is not familiar to people, but she was on the Financial Stability Task Force, and she has a degree in actuarial science. And so it's pretty well a very, very diverse group of people, and from all over the city. There's no one area of concentration, so we're pretty careful with that. So again, the names I'm bringing forward are Darlene Ademba, Doug Levy, and Stacy Danuski. So we need to get council's approval for this. So probably the easiest way to do this is to have the clerk take a roll call vote. And if you approve, it's yes. If you don't approve, it's no. Madam Clerk, if you please.
I'm sorry, can you clarify what you mean by roll call vote?
Yes, could you ask each one of the council members if they approve on the for the commission?
Okay, excellent. So on approving the 3 members as proposed by Mayor Baker, Councilmember O'Kane.
Yes.
Councilmember File.
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall.
Yes.
Councilmember Kugler.
Yes.
Councilmember Shrubnik.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herbig.
Yes.
So they're under time constraints. They can have as many meetings as they want. We think there'll be 2, and we will have their recommendation on the last meeting of the year, the 20th. So again, we're not to talk with the members. I'm certainly not going to talk with them. They know what they're asked to do. And if they want to keep the salary the same or increase it or lower it, they can do any one of those things. So we are appointing them to set our salary. In any event, that's all for the special meeting. Remember, there's a meeting on December 6th, another special meeting, December 13th, December 14th, there's the legislative send-off, and December 20th will be a regular meeting. So thank you all for your diligence tonight. And with that, the meeting, and goodbye, Miss City Attorney. Thank you for being here and making sure we're legal. Well, everybody have a great evening.
Night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Next week.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.